everybody, my name's Chaplin with Octane Thrills. Today we're going to show you how to properly change the belt. If you ever find yourself in a situation on the trail where you just blew a belt and you need to change it, put a new one in there and get yourself on your way. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and bring the camera in closer so we can get a better look at what we're actually doing here. Just a few pointers here. Right here we have our air hose that forces air into the clutch assembly. We are going to need to remove this first. Now this is a 2015 model. If you had a 2014 model, you will not have this hose. This is actually new for 2015 and above. Okay, so this is a 2015 model, so if you find yourself driving a 2014 model, because we do have some 2014 models, you will not have this hose. Alright, so a few things you're going to need is you're going to need an 8mm socket wrench with an extension. You are going to need this nice little handy dandy tool here for a secondary drive. It has a little hook here and this other piece that's designed like this as well on the other side. And then you're going to need some wire cutters. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove. And I apologize for the view on this, but it is a little hard to get in here with a camera. So we're going to detach this little clamp here and we're going to pull the hose right off. Now, you're going to want this hose out of the way. So I'm going to try to kind of rig something up here so it does stay out of our way. And then what we're going to do is we're going to remove the 8mm bolts that are attached to this clutch cover. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 8mm socket bolts. Let's go ahead and remove those. Alright. Now remember guys, when we're putting this back together, we do not want to tighten these down like if you were bolting something to a car. It needs a lot of torque. This is plastic. It's a bolt going into plastic, so we just really need to go until it kind of tightly snugs on there, but it does not need to be torqued all the way. Alright guys, once we get those bolts removed, we can go ahead and just remove this clutch cover. Now, the tricky part of this clutch cover is it is kind of at a weird angle where you do need to raise this side up a little bit and then push this side forward and go ahead and remove that whole cover. Once we do that, we can see that we have a primary drive, which is right here, and then we have our secondary drive, which is right here. Now, the one we need to focus on is the secondary drive. But before I get started, obviously this belt is not broken. This belt is in good working condition. Unfortunately, I don't have a broken belt to show you, but let me make you aware of a few things. Now, when this belt breaks, depending on what belt you actually have in your that you're running with, there's some carbon fiber belts out there, and then there's some OEM belts out there. The OEM belt actually has strings in it. When that belt breaks, you're going to have strings that are going to wrap around your secondary and your primary drive inside the sheaves here. So you're going to want to make sure that you do remove those strings from there before you insert a new belt. Now that is the reason why I say you will need wire cutters if you are running an OEM belt. Make sure that you do use your wire cutters, and it's a little easier to just cut those strings and then pull them out instead of trying to unravel this big long string that is torqued down to the clutch assembly. Okay, so again, just keep that in mind. And then also too guys, you have a air duct right here. There's a hole that runs up and goes through here. Now what that is to blow out all that excess belt breakage. So make sure that there's none stuck in here. Okay, so make sure you just put your hand in there, try to pull some out. Get as much of the debris as you actually get all of the debris out that you can, and then we're ready to insert our new belt. Now, so I'll kind of kill two birds with one stone. If we ever needed to remove the belt, the reason why we need this special tool, okay, is because it has a hook right here. Now what we're going to do with that hook is we're going to find, you can do either side, this side or this side. There's an opening here. We're going to attach our hook like this, and then we're going to pry up. Okay, so what that does is it relieves the tension of the belt. Okay, so it loosens it up. And then at that point, what we can do is we can go ahead and remove our belt from our secondary drive. Now this is kind of a little tricky. All right, so you kind of have to get it started here. All right, voila. So if you notice, what I was doing is as I relieved the tension, I was also spinning the belt to kind of help me pull it out of there, okay? So once we get it out of there, you know, there we go. Now, if you were doing this just to inspect your belt and make sure that there was nothing wrong with your belt or whatnot, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure there's no kind of shiny marks on there. What we call that is the belt is glazed, okay? In this situation, the belt is not glazed. This belt is a good working belt, but you want to inspect for any cracks or anything like that. So for instance, if your machine was running a little bit incorrectly, and it, you know, maybe was slipping here and there, it could be caused by a glazed belt, or the belt could be slightly cracked or whatnot. Okay, so now we're at a point. Sorry, I kind of bumped the camera there. Now we're at a point where if this was a situation where the belt did break and we got all kinds of debris in here and everything, we want to go ahead and remove all that debris, right? And then we're ready for the install of the new belt. So again, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we relieve the tension so we could actually get our new belt in there. All right. Now, very important step, guys. This one is a carbon fiber belt that we're running in here right now. And one thing I want to point out is you have words on the belt, okay? The words, you need to be able to read these words before we put the belt in, which means I need to be able to read it by putting the belt in this way, right? If I had the belt reversed like this, it would be backwards. And that belt's direction is now reversed, which we don't want that, okay? We want it to be going in there the proper way. So you want to make sure that you do have that correct. All right, so what we'll do is I'll go ahead and feed it on the primary drive first. It always makes it easier. And then I will try to kind of feed it in here. Let me go ahead and take my tool out and get it behind the belt. All right, then go ahead and push that in there as we are spinning the drive. And sometimes this tool helps to use as kind of a handle to help spin the belt. It does take some force. All right. All right. Now we got the belt back on there, all right? We want to make sure everything is lined up and everything does spin freely. Obviously this won't spin freely because this is a primary drive, the vehicle's not on or engaged. But everything looks good. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to put the clutch cover back on, okay? Now this is kind of the tricky part again. Kind of got to feed it in there properly. All right, go ahead and get that lined up. Oh, another thing I want to point out to you guys as well too, there's also a rubber gasket right here for the clutch cover. You want to make sure that is still in its holster here all the way around the clutch cover, and make sure there's no damage to that as well too, because that stops the water and, you know, dirt and things like that from getting in, so you definitely don't want that in here. So just double check that before you guys put this back together. Now we got all of our bolts bolted down. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and put this hose back on. Make sure we tighten this clamp down. All right. So now we're ready to rock and roll. So we've got our belt put back in there and everything put back together. We didn't have to jack it up. We didn't have to remove tires, remove shocks, or anything like that. Everything was really easy to get to. Thank you for Polaris for designing the machine this way. Again, guys, make sure you pay attention to our belt breakage prevention so you don't find yourself in this situation. But again, if you guys do find yourself in this situation, you will be able to get yourself out of it. Now, again, we do provide you with spare belts just in case this does happen, so you can still enjoy the rest of your day and get yourself back up and running. Thank you for paying attention, guys. We'll see you out there on the trail.